A lot of bodybuilders end up looking crooked or posturally off balance. Why? Well, they usually focus on targeting specific muscles through exercises without first getting the basics of coordination in check. The result? They build up muscular strength on top of poor movement patterns, which only get worse over time as they pile on more weight. These bad habits become cemented in their nervous system. For sure, you can get stronger with dumbbells, barbells, and machines. There is no doubt about that. But there is one thing. While you're focusing on the biceps curl, it's easy to forget about the rest of your body. The fascia, the connective tissue surrounding your muscles, needs to stretch too. It's not just about the muscle, it's about the whole body moving as one. If you isolate your focus on the biceps only, you forget about your posture, you're missing the bigger picture. What most people don't realize is that we are always coordinating our movements even when we don't think about it. The real trick is to do it consciously. If we don't do it, our bodies will default to whatever bad habits we've built up over time. Take a moment to think about how most people, bodybuilders included, move. Many of us are living in a discombobulated state, where we habitually slumping, shortening or narrowing our torsos. I used to be in that exact spot too. When you start lifting heavy while stuck in this posture, your body doesn't just magically fix itself. It instead repeats the same habits but now with a heavier load. For instance, you've been arching your back and letting your abdomen stick out when you sit. Guess what? You're likely doing the same thing during your squat or press. That's how crooked posture sneaks in. Let's break it down. Imagine sitting down in a chair, but doing it with bad posture. Even without weight, it feels awkward, right? Now try sitting down with a heavy weight on your back. The movement you used to do without weight is only going to get worse when you add that load. It's like trying to sit on a wobbly chair and then expecting to be stable just because you've got 100 kilograms of barbell on your back. It's not just to happen. If your foundation is shaky, the weight will only expose those cracks. Think about it. If you sit properly 10,000 times, it might lead to a back injury. But squatting with bad form just a handful of times, isn't it? Think about it. If you sit improperly 10,000 times, it might lead to a back injury. But squatting with bad form just a handful of times, that's enough to cause serious damage. It's not about the number of reps, it's about how you're doing them. That's why it's critical to fix your movement pattern first, without weight. Once your body moves correctly, adding weight becomes a whole lot easier, and you'll be far less likely to hurt yourself. Now bodybuilders tend to focus too much on the end gain. Everyone is obsessed with bigger muscles. But often they skip the most important part, the process. The mechanics of how you move are just important as more so than the end result. It's like trying to build a house without making sure the foundation is solid. Most traditional training methods are obsessed with the end goal, more muscle mass. But ignore that the spine and the posture that are essential to safely achieving that. This end gaining mentally leads people to push their bodies with misdirect effort. They might overwork their biceps while completely neglecting their back or core. This creates an imbalanced asymmetrical physique, and over time it leads to discomfort and injury. If you don't have conscious guidance over your movements, you're just going to keep reinforcing those bad habits. That's why some people develop terrible posture because they never learned proper movements from the start. Maybe they grew up with someone who had bad posture too, or they were taught by someone who didn't know better. If you're not actively learning how to move the right way, your body will just follow those bad patterns. Whether it's poor coordination from bad habits or structural issues like excessive rounding of the back or inward curvature of the spine, both will eventually catch up to you. But here's the good news, it's never too late to learn. The key is focusing on the means whereby, the process of learning the movement properly. Before you worry about getting bigger muscles, fix the way you move first, then add the weight. That's how you build a solid foundation for long-term strength, stability, and injury-free progress. Bodybuilders often rely constant muscular contraction for stability, but this approach overlooks the body's natural tensegrity system. The interconnected network of fascia and muscles are designed to support us passively. This means that they end up using muscles to hold themselves up, which leads to chronic tension, fatigue, and stiffness. The issue being with limb fascia, in a shortened or arched torso, the thoracolumbar fascia, essentially the big spring in the back, becomes slack and fails to provide passive support. Without this support, the bodybuilder is forced to use exhausting muscular effort just to maintain posture, which over time leads to that all too familiar feeling of chronic tightness and stiffness. One common manifestation of this flawed posture is what we call the puter pigeon chest. You've probably seen it, the exaggerated chest lift, where the shoulders are pulled back and down. This posture rotates the ribcage, narrows the back, and pushes the abdomen forward. At first glance, it might look powerful, but mechanically, it's a disaster. A bent and an imbalanced shape that is far from ideal. Though it might make the chest look larger or more prominent, this putter pigeon pose is a significant mechanical flaw that compromises the entire body functioning. It's a pose that was once used to a position of seduction, to make the chest look higher, but it relies in a faulty rotation of the ribcage that distorts the body. Here's what the bigger look, it's actually a sign of postural collapse. Firstly, it's an illusion of length. To achieve the putter pigeon look, the ribcage must rotate that the top part moves back and down, while the bottom moves forward and up. This gives the illusion of a lifted chest, but it shortens and narrows the back, hollowing the lumbar spine. Essentially, you're sacrificing actual length in your body in exchange for that temporary aesthetic that doesn't last. Then there are the harmful side effects, the psychomechanical defects that come with this pose and are pretty severe. Protruding abdomen. Because the lower ribs are pushed forward and the back is arched, the abdominal wall inevitably sticks out, throwing off your natural posture. Rigid thorax. This position also makes the chest stiff and rigid, impairing you to ability of breathing naturally. Instead of breathing in air effortlessly, you're forced to suck it in, which limits lung capacity. Neck and voice problems. By putting the upper chest backward, the head and neck are pulled back and down as well. This unnatural positioning kinks the airway, leading to problems like hoarseness and sore throat. So what's really happening in this pose? The thoracolumbar fascia, the big supportive spring in your back, becomes limp and loses its elasticity. Without its passive support, you have no choice but to rely on muscular effort to hold yourself up, leading to chronic tension and fatigue. And what's the worst part? This becomes a repetitive cycle of tension. Want to see this in action? Check out one of my viral Instagram posts, where I did a body posture correction of Arnold Schwarzenegger's famous pose. It's a good example of how, while posing may look impressive, it doesn't always reflect the body's best mechanics. Take a look around, and you'll notice how many people try to adopt this superior look, puffing out their chest and pulling their shoulders back. They think it looks good, but in reality it's working against them. Here's why it's problematic. The back will shorten and the neck will retract, leading to misalignment. Aesthetically, it looks forced, and health-wise, it messes things like breathing and eating mechanics. People often criticize the flat chest or flat back as unattractive, but those are people who don't understand how body works and cohesive unit. They forget about the fascia and the importance of maintaining balance and mobility in the body. We want to have the perfect mobility. The issue isn't that Arnold posed this way in a picture. The real problem is that millions of people see that image and try to replicate it, thinking that they need to open up their backs to look better. What they don't realize is that they're not just copying the look, they're copying a flawed, unsustainable posture that harms their body and in the long term. In the initial Alexander technique, we recommend a much healthier and more effective alternative to the putter pigeon chest, the noble pose, also known as the harmonic expansion of the torso. In this alignment, the sternum stays vertical, remaining parallel to the back line. The back is flat and lengthened, not arched and collapsed. The head is positioned forward and up relative to the torso, which keeps the airway open and clear. This approach allows the body to reach its full natural stature without harmful internal pressure that comes with the puffed up superior look of putter pigeon chest. Have you ever tried to stand up straight by lifting your chest, only to feel a sharp pinch in your lower back and a tightening in your throat? That's your body signaling that you're relying on the wrong muscles to hold yourself up. The noble pose avoids this problem by maintaining a balanced, expansive posture that won't force your body into extremes. The noble pose is not about forcing your body into a static position, it's about a coordinated process where the movements of your torso are aligned in a way that allows for full natural expansion. Think of it as the middle way, a balanced approach that falls between two extremes: the concave slump, where the torso falls back, and the convex putter pigeon chest, where the chest is pushed forward and the upper chest is unnaturally lifted. When you're in the noble pose, the spine is aligned so that the back is flat from the sacrum all the way up to the 7th thoracic vertebra. The upper thoracic curve, that natural hump, is maintained and the head is projected forward and up rather than jutting on a tilting back. As for the chest, the sternum stays vertical and parallel to the backline, unlike the excessive backward inclination seen in the putter pigeon chest. What makes the noble pose even more powerful is focus on objective measurements instead of relying on vague feelings of being straight. Here's how you get it right. Frontal plane. Align the upper sternum, lower sternum, the 8th rib line, and the iliac crest, the front of the pelvis, along the same vertical plane. Instep reference, the same vertical plane should align with the instep, the front part of the ankle bone. Weight distribution. The body's weight should rest primarily on the front of the heels, with the back line of the torso staying roughly 1/5 distance behind the heels. This ensures that the fascia is properly stretched and ready to support you. The entire face and ear should be slightly forward of the torso's frontal plane. This keeps your airway straight and the back spring of your body taut. So if you ask, why is the noble pose superior to the other posture? Here's the breakdown. It's a support through elasticity. By aligning the bones correctly, the thoracolumbar fascia and IT band are drawn tight like a spring. This gives your body passive support through elasticity, reducing the need for constant muscular effort to hold yourself up. In short, it's far less exhausting. Secondly, optimized organ function. When the torso expands correctly, it prevents harmful internal pressures. This provides more room for your internal organs, which improves digestion, circulation, and overall organ function. Third, effortless breathing. With a vertical sternum and expanded ribcage, your lungs fill naturally via atmospheric pressure. This prevents the kink in the airway caused by retracted head and neck, allowing the easier breathing and better vocal control. True freedom of movement. The noble pose establishes perfect mobility, meaning your limits can move independently without causing the torso to collapse and shorten. You don't have to worry about the central structure of getting compressed or losing stability when you move. Now here's when things get a bit tricky. Many people who don't know about the noble pose are completely gaslighted by mainstream ideas. They're told that pulling the shoulders back is the best posture, opening the chest is the ultimate goal. They should avoid that forward head and shoulder posture at all costs. But here's the catch. To properly get those shoulders down and to open up the chest, you need to bring the lower ribs back and the collarbones forward. This will naturally raise your head and set your posture in the right direction. The problem is, a lot of people don't realize this. Instead, they've been told to shorten their backs in order to achieve the look they think they want. So they unknowingly end up making the posture worse, not better. It's a bit like an epidemic. People don't realize they're chasing an ideal that isn't actually helping them in the long run. The posture they really are after is the noble pose, but they've been tricked in thinking that other methods will get them there. The noble pose is the real game changer, but it requires understanding of how your body is designed to move and support itself. If you get this right, it completely transforms you, not just your physique, but your overall well-being. Crookedness often stems from unconscious habitual movements, what's known as somatic learning. These are the kinds of habits where one side of the body gets favored during training without even realizing it. For example, if a lifter rotates the ankle slightly more on the side or moves one knee faster than the other, the pelvis will rotate and tip. Since the spine is rigidly attached to the pelvis, this causes the spine to curve in compensation, resulting in something like functional scoliosis, or worse, one shoulder being higher than the other. The key takeaway here is that asymmetry isn't just a physical flaw, it's a psychomechanical issue, a breakdown in the overall coordination of the body. It's a result of your body learning to compensate for faulty movement patterns, often without you being aware of it. So what's exactly the asymmetry in the context? In the Alexander technique, asymmetry, whether it's scoliosis, uneven shoulders, or consistently favoring one side, results from habitual misdirection of the torso mechanics. These misdirected movements don't happen by accident. They are a result of repetitive unconscious actions that can get placed every day. You might unknowingly rotate one ankle more than the other or move one knee faster. This creates imbalances, and over time your body adapts to these patterns. As the pelvis rotates or tilts, the spine is compensating by curving to one side. This throws the entire body out of alignment, including the shoulders and neck. But here's the sneaky part. Because of faulty sensory appreciation, we often feel like we're standing straight, even when we are not. So the body has a way of convincing us that everything is fine, even when things are completely out of whack. So how to solve this asymmetry? It required a shift from feeling you to the way of symmetry to use reasoned, thoughtful coordination. You can't rely on what feels right because your sensory system is already adjusted to your old crooked habits. Here's how you can start fixing it. Inhibit the first step into the stop of the urge to correct yours based on what feels right. You need to refuse to let your old habitual movement take over. Just because it feels normal doesn't mean it's right. Reasoned mental models. Since your sensory system can't be trusted in this case, you need to observe your movement objectively. Use visual feedback, such as mirrors or video recordings, to see the distortion for yourself. Seeing is believing, and this allows you to correct that you might not feel. 3. Simultaneous directions on a 1, 2, 3 count. This involves giving yourself a series of concerned specific directions to guide your body into better alignment. Here's a simple 1, 2, 3 count for the torso. Direct your upper sternum forward and up. Direct your lower ribs back and up. Direct the third lumbar vertebra, L3, forward and up. By applying these movements together, you start to realign the structure of your body. 4. Fascial support. As you align the bones, especially the ribcage and pelvis, you stretch the fascia. Think of the IT band and the thoracolumbar fascia until it's taut. This tension provides free energy to stabilize your body, allowing the support itself with passive elastic force rather than relying on uneven muscular effort. But how long does it take to correct asymmetry? It's not an instant fix. This process is more about learning and transformation. Than it's about a quick fix. Immediate awareness. Some people notice a difference in muscle tension after just the first lesson. They become aware of the habitual movements they do, and this awareness is the first step toward change. Another key factor is establishing new patterns. It usually takes several weeks of consistent practice and reflection before you start to feel clear changes in your alignment. Your body needs time to adapt and relearn how to move. Long-term mastery. Getting to a point where your movements are truly aligned and you're no longer compensating takes time, usually years. Even experienced teachers mention working for 2 or 3 years refining postural angles, and even then, there's always room for improvement. Ultimately, the goal is to reach that point of independence. You want to be able to move well without needing constant external correction. The more you practice, the more natural these new, healthier movement patterns will become. Asymmetry is often misunderstood as a just physical defect. However, in the context of the initial Alexander technique, it's actually viewed as a psychomechanical symptom of a breakdown in overall coordination of the body. It's not just about one side being off, it's a sign that the body's natural balance is being disrupted. What exactly is asymmetry? In this framework, asymmetry, whether it's scoliosis, uneven shoulders, or favoring one side, is a result of misdirected movement habits. These habits are often unconscious, repeating themselves day after day, slowly throwing the body out of alignment. For example, somatic learning. This refers to unconscious patterns of movement like rotating one ankle more than the other or moving one knee faster than the other. These small, seemingly insignificant actions build up and influence how the whole body moves. Compensatory distortion. When one side of the pelvis is higher rotated, the body compensates by curving the spine. This in turn throws the shoulders, neck out of alignment. Deceptive feeling. The body sensory system often deceives us into thinking we are standing straight or symmetrical. We feel fine even when our posture is actually quite distorted. Picture the typical body posture you see everywhere. Big chest, big arms, and a body position that quietly sabotages everything. If you want a quick reality check, don't look at your biceps in the mirror. Look at your shape from the side and from the back and ask, am I building strength or am I building dysfunction? Here's what to watch out for because this is how people end up training hard for years and still moving like an ignorant caricature. Start at the top. The shoulders. A lot of guys live with the shoulders shrugged up toward their ears like they're permanently bracing for impact. When that happens, the upper sternum caves in and the whole front of the torso collapses downward. The abdomen doesn't get lifted and stretched, it gets pressed down into the pelvis. Then it gets asymmetrical. If you raise one arm more often or higher, or you always carry things on the same side, and you start pulling one shoulder up habitually, one shoulder ends up higher, the ribcage rotates more on one side, and the pelvis drops more on one side. Congratulations, you're not fixing your scoliosis, you're feeding it. You're basically training your spine to twist harder. Now the head and neck, another classic. People crank their head upward like they're trying to look confident, but what they're really doing is shortening the back of the neck. At the same time, the front of the neck droops forward and down, not forward and up. So you get this weird combo, chin lifted but neck collapsed. It's not power, it's tension. And that tension shows up in the jawline too. The mandible retracts, the face loses structure, and suddenly you've got that soft double chin look even when you're lean. Not because you're fat, but because the hip position is basically folding your throat. Then we get into the big one, the pelvis and the knees drifting in front of the feet. This is the silent posture crime scene. When your pelvis lifts forward of your base, it doesn't just shift, it drops forward and down. And a lot of bodybuilders make it worse because they shorten their back on purpose just to make the chest pop. They chase the proud chest look and they pay for it with a protruding belly. And yes, it's kind of hilarious in a tragic way. Someone wants a flat stomach, but they wage war on calories and carbs, but they refuse to fix the bigger issue. Posture that literally dumps the organs forward and down. So even at a low body fat, the belly still pushes out. Why? Because you created no space at the back and at the top. You've compressed the torso like an accordion, and the content have to go somewhere. Spoiler, they go forward. A shrunk spine means no room. From above, the diaphragm gets forced down because the torso isn't directed back and up. It's directed forward and down. From behind, the whole lower back gets jammed. You'll see the low L3, you'll even see it at L3. Standing, it tends to drive forward. Sitting, it tends to drive backward. Either way, it's not stacked, it's stressed. Zoom out and the whole posture reads the same. Older, smaller, and weirdly submissive. Big muscles, but the body language of someone apologizing for taking up space. And here's the part people don't wanna hear. You can't just pull the shoulders down and back. If you do that as a simple isolated movement, you'll often drag the lower ribs forward and down with the collarbone complex, and the upper sternum sinks even more. You end up reinforcing the exact collapse you're trying to escape. This is also why a lot of people don't trust the iliac correction work. When I tell someone wet the ribs back, bring the collar forward and bring the head forward too, they think that sounds insane. They assume forward head is always bad, but they don't understand the sequence. You will never get the head higher than where it is now if your lower ribs are sitting in front of your sternum. You need the torso to restack first. So when people firstly try to adjust, it feels wrong. They feel ugly. Sometimes they feel even pain. And they could label it as bad posture work. But once who stick with it is gaining control. Lower ribs come back, the collar and shoulder girdle move forward and up. The sternum rises and the spine finally has somewhere to go besides the compression. And don't forget the foundation, check the feet. A lot of these guys have heels collapsing, either inward or outward, most often outward. That messes with everything above it, because if your base is unstable, the body builds compensation on top of the compensation. So if you're training hard and you want to actually look strong, move strong, age like an athlete instead of compressed stature, stop obsessing over the mirror muscles and start auditing your alignment. Because you can have a huge chest and still be collapsing through the torso. And that's not dominance, that's just expensive dysfunction. So how do you solve asymmetry? The key is to shift from feeling your way to symmetry to using reasoned coordination. You can't just rely on what you feel because your sensory system has already adapted those old crooked habits. Here's how you can start. Inhibition. The first step is to stop urge to correct yourself based on what feels right. You need to consciously refuse to follow your habitual movement. The idea is to pause, recognize that your own way of moving isn't serving you. 2. Reasoned mental models. Since your sensory system can't be trusted, you need to observe movement objectively. Use video feedback or mirrors to access your posture. By seeing the distortion, you can make more accurate corrections rather than relying on how you think you look. 3. Simultaneous directions like a 1, 2, 3 count. This is where you apply a series of concentrated orders to your body at once, guiding your bones into better alignment. For example, direct the upper sternum forward and up, direct the lower ribs back and up, direct the third lumbar vertebra forward and up. By giving your body these simultaneous instructions, you begin realign the torso and improve your overall structure. Fascial support, aligning the bones of your ribcage and pelvis creates tension in the fascia like the IT band and thoracolumbar fascia, stretching it taut. This gives you free energy for stability, meaning your body can support itself through passive elastic force rather than relying on exhausting muscular effort. But how long does it take to correct asymmetry? It's not something that happens overnight, it's a process of learning and transformation. Immediate awareness. After just one session, you might start to notice a shift in the tension you feel. You become more aware of your old habits. And this awareness is the first step toward real change. Establishing new patterns. But what about the anatomical landmarks and geometrical criteria for the alignment? In the initial Alexander technique, the alignment is not achieved through feeling straight or guessing your posture. Instead, it's based on specific objective anatomical landmarks that guide the reorganization of the torso and limbs. By aligning these key points, you engage the body passive support system, the fascia, reducing the need for constant muscular effort. This allows your body to support itself naturally, with much less strain. The body's alignment isn't just about standing straight, it's a finely tuned system of landmarks and mechanical coordination. Here are some of the key anatomical references that guide that process of achieving harmonic expansion. The primary reference, the instep, is located at the front of the ankle, on the internal part of the foot, especially the front of the talus bone. This is the anchor for the vertical alignment. In the state of harmonic expansion, the torso frontal parts should align vertically with the instep. To check this, use a ruler to ensure the horizontal distance from the instep to a wall is the same as the distance from your throat to the wall. Next, to unbend the torso and lengthen the spine, 4 key landmarks must align on the same vertical plane. These are referred to the frontal plane of the torso. Upper sternum, the throat spot, the bony top of the breastbone. The correction here is to direct it forward and up, avoiding letting it tilting back and down, which leads to a lifted chest posture. 8th rib line. This is where the ribcage changes direction at the front. The correction is to direct these ribs back and up to prevent them from protruding forward and hollowing the back. Iliac crest. The bony points at the front of the pelvis. These should be rotated back and up, away from the knees. This adjustment helps to stretch the IT band and psoas fascia, improving alignment. Lower sternum, the bottom of the breastbone, which acts as a center of rotation for the ribcage. This should move in coordination with the upper chest to prevent the body from collapsing inward. Moving to the spinal pivot, the L3 is the third lumbar vertebra located at the middle of the lower back. This acts like a hinge to provide flexibility and stability. The correction is to direct the L3 forward and up while moving the lower sternum back. This creates an internal upward force that prevents slumping into the pelvis for the lower body landmarks. Sitting bones, located at the bottom of the torso. When sitting, focusing on sitting only on these bones at the front edge of the chair. When standing, direct them down and forward, toward the legs to unbend the lower back. Malleoli, the ankle bones, the ankles must be aligned vertically. Screw the outer malleolus forward and the inner malleolus back, making sure the ankle axis forms a 90-degree angle with the direction you're facing. For the head and neck landmarks, mandibular angle, this is the corner of the jaw under your ear. This correction is to direct this angle downward while guiding the larynx. Voice box back and down. Ponytail spot, located at the back of the head. This should be directed forward and up to prevent the head from overrunning the body when leaning. Upper arm spot, this is the bony bump on the side of the upper arm where the shoulder bone drops off. The correction here is to direct this spot forward, out and down. This helps widen the upper back and prevents the shoulder blades from protruding. Tip of the elbow. The correction is to direct the elbow forward and out, always away from the ribs. This stretches the latissimus dorsi, which turns into a passive spring, helping to lift the torso. The standard of progress is not measured by simply feeling better, but by objective visual observation of these landmarks. You know you succeeded when a side view video shows a flat lower back from the sacrum to the amputate, a vertical sternum, the head positioned forward and up, in line with the torso's frontal plane. Now let's talk about asymmetry and how it impacts the coordination of the whole body. Asymmetry isn't just a localized issue, it's a problem with the body overall coordination. For example, you reach for a glass that's in front of you and above you, and you don't think about bringing the lower ribs back as you raise your arm. And those ribs will raise as well. Doing this repeatedly over time will worsen the movement pattern. Eventually the lower ribs, one side of the body, say the right side, will raise more often than the left, creating an imbalance. Another example. If you stand with more weight on your left foot, that foot might collapse inward, which causes the pelvis and ribs to shift on one side. This throws off your alignment, causing the jaw to retract on one side, the head to rotate, and the cycle continues. This is the ripple effect of poor coordination, and it needs to be stopped through conscious guidance and control. You can reverse this pattern by actively correcting your movement coordination. The crookedness that's often observed in bodybuilders is not a result of biological defect, but rather a psychomechanical system of improper coordination. Many bodybuilders tend to focus intensely on specific movements that target isolated muscles, often ignoring the importance of general coordination and alignment in their bodies. This practice of isolating the muscle groups without considering the overall structure and movement mechanics leads to the reinforcement of misalignments. Over time, these imbalances got worse and worse. A lot of people ask me, can you just give me a fitness plan with the exercise and reps? And I get it. A plan feels clean, a checklist, something you can follow without thinking. But I have to be honest with you. The best advice I can give you is this. How you train matters more than what you train. Because you can run the perfect program and still build the wrong patterns. You can do all right exercise and still move like trash if your alignment, control and execution are off. The plan isn't magic, the details are. And that's the part most people don't want. Not because it's complicated, because it's real work. It's unsexy, it's slowing down, it's cleaning up the movement, fixing the small stuff you've been ignoring and doing it again and again until it sticks. Everybody wants the routine. Fewer people want the precision, but precision is where the result actually lives. True poise and proper posture are achieved when the lifter uses their reasoning mind to bring awareness to how their body moves as a whole. Rather than simply going through the motions of an exercise, they must focus on maintaining a high, expanded torso throughout the activity. This means actively preventing any slumping or overcompensating movements, like arching the back or protruding the abdomen, and instead ensuring that the body is aligned from the head to toe. By integrating reasoning with movement, the lifter can improve not only the physical strength, but also their coordination and overall posture, resulting in a more balanced and sustainable physique. I appreciate every like, every comment, every subscription. It genuinely helps. If there is a specific topic you want next, drop it in the comments and I will cover it. And if you want to follow my journey more closely, you can subscribe on my Patreon. If you need help, go on postureispower.com. Until then, stay lengthened, keep your eyes open, and I will see you in the next one.